Whether it just got unlocked for you in the recent update, or you're watching this in the future when you hit Town Center level 19, it's time to get excited about Oasis Island. This is an all-new mode in Kingshot where you get to essentially build a second town, this time on an island and with a lot more creative freedom over what you build and how it looks. But this feature isn't just simply about personal expression, it's also an incredible source for so many different buffs to improve your account that a simple tips and tricks video just wouldn't suffice. When we get such a massive feature that provide buffs to combat stats of all types, squad capacity, march speed, construction, gathering, healing, research speed, and troop training, this calls for me to make a full guide in my Kingshot Essentials series so we can all make the most of it. In this video, I'm going to first explain the core loop of how this mode works, then break down all the key concepts and their roles in optimizing our play. These will both contextualize all of the guidance I'm about to give. Next, I will share 7 important tips on how to accelerate your tempo the fastest in the early days of your island. I'll also give you 3 extremely common mistakes I've been seeing. And finally, I'll share some guidance on longer-term progression and priorities. Once you've watched this video, you won't get left behind like this guy. Let's dive in. First, let's talk about the core loop. The core loop of this game mode is deceptively simple. You gain essence, both passively over time and through certain actions. You then use that essence to invest in your Fountain of Life, or reservoirs, to increase your rate of gaining essence. However, you can't always directly increase the fountain level. You sometimes need another resource called Prosperity as a prerequisite. You don't consume Prosperity, you rather accumulate it by building new buildings and decorations. As your prosperity grows, it will allow you to upgrade your fountain further, which unlocks new building types. Now here's where it gets tricky. Don't forget that this whole gameplay loop is a minigame within Kingshot. So in addition to providing prosperity, some buildings will provide buffs to your overall Kingshot game, and these buffs are huge. I'll go into them in more detail shortly. One minor note, you can send resources from your main game to build decorations, but so far, these types are more for cosmetic purposes and do not contribute to prosperity. You should also expect events to start providing rewards that can enhance the building of your island, from mythic general decoration components up to and including unique limited-time buildings for seasonal events. The recurring events that have been updated to include Oasis Island rewards include Kingdom of Power, Strongest Governor, Armament Competition, Officer Project, Grow Your Heroes, Defeat Nearby Beasts, and All Out. Some of these events may not be available to you until your server reaches the Age of True Gold on day 70. So this whole thing sets up the stage for how we need to think about optimization. Because now 2 competing priorities emerge. One strategic priority will be to increase the flywheel effect of essence generation to grow your island faster, while the other will be about extracting bonuses from this virtuous cycle to support your main Kingshot game. However you balance these competing priorities is up to you, but the rest of this video will help you do both of those things more efficiently individually, as well as call out points of arbitrage where you can do both simultaneously. So now that we know the macro structure, let's talk about some of the core concepts you should familiarize yourself with. Most importantly is how you get essence. This happens in a mix of active and passive ways. There are 4 main ones to know. It is generated passively from your Fountain of Life, and eventually your reservoir buildings, of which you can have up to 2 actively generating essence. You must tap them to actually collect the essence though, and there is a minimum storage to how much can be generated without you tapping it. Essence can also be gained by finding treasure chests hidden in the cacti that your reservoir workers will clear. This amount varies, but can be up to a few thousand essence each. It can be rewarded for the completion of quests relating to your island. The amount here varies as well, but you can see what's available to you to turn in from that lower left menu. It can also be granted to you and an alliance member by assisting them. You can provide up to 3 assists per day that will each net you 200 essence, as well as receive 3 assists per day. The amount you receive from each boost increases as your fountain level grows, and so far, it seems that it's roughly 1/2 of your hourly essence output. There's also a 6-hour cooldown between receiving each assist. Eventually, you will have exhausted all of the chests and quests that provide essence, which will leave you passive generation and alliance support as the only way to gain essence, unless it's given out as future event rewards. Therefore, it's important to increase your passive generation abilities as soon as possible. We'll talk about how to do that in the next chapter. But first, let's look at the other side of the equation, the buffs that we can expect. By default, you'll be receiving a number of buffs for your mainland simply by upgrading your Fountain of Life level. There are also many different building and decoration types, but I'll try to put some structure to it to make it easier to understand. First are the purely cosmetic items. These are the things that do not provide any benefits whatsoever, whether bonuses or even prosperity. You can find most of these in the basic and vegetation submenus when you click on the build hammer. They can make your island look cool, but are not helpful for optimizing your game. Next, we have the prosperity-only items to build. In addition to their decorative function, they add to your prosperity total, but provide no buffs. Most of these are the gray and green assets that you can see in the marketplace window. Notably, they cannot be upgraded like other buildable assets. For these next categories, it's helpful if we look at the guide, which shows all possible buildings in the game currently, including the ones you haven't unlocked. You can find it by clicking the Island Storehouse in the bottom left and selecting Guide in the top right. Let's go to the Other tab for now. The blue buildings you will see here are focused primarily on the growth bonuses for the mainland. These are the ones that provide buffs to things like gathering, research, troop training, construction speed, etc. The one notable exception is an additional construction speed building that is also in the purple rarity tier, the Construction Hut. You can only have one of each of these buildings active on your island, but they can be upgraded to level 5 by acquiring more copies. As we get further into the higher rarity tiers, the rest of the buildings support your troop stat. The potential exception here is the blue Basic Docks, which increases your deployment capacity. One could argue that this could be considered a growth buff, though. The remaining 6 purple buildings all increase the attack and defense of each of the 3 troop types, which also can only be upgraded to level 5. Then we have the 6 orange rarity buildings that again provide the same 6 troop bonuses, but these can be upgraded to level 10 and provide up to 4 times the stat bonus of their purple counterpart. And now let's talk about that last building type, Limited. These are ultra-powerful buildings that are linked to specific events in-game, either both rotating events and one-time seasonal events. They'll have unique ways to acquire them, and you should expect to see this list grow over time. And while we're on the topic of limited-time buildings, I'd like to point your attention to the rocks at the bottom left corner of the map near your starting location. This is where another building will go, a lighthouse called the Golden Sunset. At the time of this recording, it is not yet available in the game, but when it is, it will be a must build as soon as you have a chance to obtain it, because this building will provide up to 10% increase to health and lethality for troops. These are the 2 most important stats in combat. And to understand why, check out my ultimate guide to combat linked below in the description. Now that you understand the core loop and all the important concepts, let's talk about how to optimize things within that framework. I'm going to break this section up into 7 different tips that will help accelerate the tempo of your island so it can grow faster and get you stronger buffs more quickly. Tip number 1 is to place your reservoir close to the cacti near treasure chests. It's not immediately apparent, but the workers from the reservoir will chop down the cactus nearest to the reservoir, which may not be the ones you will actually want them to work on. Also, the workers have to stop and bring back essence to their reservoir, and the walk time increases the further away it is from the nearest cactus. So you can clear space more quickly by being located near any cactus, but you should specifically try to locate it near the ones with treasure chests. I know it's tempting to want to keep your reservoirs near your fountain so you can collect all the essence quickly in one place, but you are actually giving up getting essence faster to do that. So feel free to constantly be repositioning your reservoir to optimize your island's development. Tip number 2 is to use decorations strategically. Those cosmetic-only decorations I mentioned earlier, you can also use them to block the paths of your reservoir workers so they'll have to travel further away to reach cacti that you do not want them to chop yet. This way, you can help guide them even faster towards clearing a path to the treasure chest. Just be careful that sometimes it can cause these weird pathfinding issues for them if you don't leave at least one square for them to pass. If this happens, they'll show up with a red circle over their head which tells you their path is blocked and they can't chop anything. At the very start of your island, you will have choices to buy green 2000 essence decorations that give you 100 prosperity, or gray 1000 essence decorations that give you 50 prosperity. These sound equivalent, but there are two considerations. One is that you are space constrained until you can clear enough cacti, so you might not have room for all the decorations. So think of space as an additional resource you need to conserve, at least until you clear the full 60 by 60 grid of cacti. Therefore, items that are more value dense for their size should take priority, aesthetics aside. This means a 1 square green item will be a better choice than a 2 by 2 green item, all else being equal. This also means a 1 square green item will be a better choice than a 1 square gray item, since you can essentially fit more prosperity into a single square. This will come in handy as you start to unlock the blue buildings and are looking for spaces to build them. Tip number 4 runs slightly contrary to tip number 3, so you'll need to use some judgment here. But the tip is to buy cheaper decorations first. This is important because there is one quest line that rewards you additional essence based on the number of items that you buy from the shop. So with cheaper items, you can complete this quest line sooner and reinvest that essence into your island to advance quicker. However, it does run the risk of running out of space, but fortunately most of the gray items are only 1 square in size. So do this up until you complete the quest line, then switch over to more value-dense items. Tip number 5 is don't forget that you can recycle. If you get into a situation where you have too many items for the space you have available, or if you are slightly short of essence for a big upgrade, you can always remove it from your island and recycle it for half the acquisition price. It's not ideal to do this frequently, but it is a strategic option that's available, especially if you somehow end up with too many copies of an item that cannot be upgraded by consuming those copies. Tip number 6 is to upgrade your reservoir to level 4 as quickly as you can. This is a major inflection point that gets you a second worker, effectively doubling the cactus clearing speed and essence acquisition. The same is true for when you unlock the second reservoir. Prioritize getting that up to at least level 4 as soon as possible. And finally, tip number 7 is to watch out for arbitrage of the items in the marketplace. While the starting gray and green items all give you about 1 prosperity per 20 essence spent, the first level upgrade of blue items, for example, provides a better rate. For only 3,000 essence for your first copy of a blue building, you can get 200 prosperity, which is 1 prosperity for every 15 essence you spend. This is better than the regular decorations, and it provides a bonus to your mainland, so it's a no-brainer to get them when they unlock. However, to upgrade to the second level, you will need 2 more copies of the same building. That means you need to spend an incremental 6,000 essence for 200 incremental prosperity. That's 30 essence for 1 prosperity, which is a worse rate than the decorations that add no bonuses. So very shortly, you will end up needing to make strategic choices between going for a bonus that really matters, like construction, or choosing to build up the pace of development in your island further. Either way, you should be intentional with these trade-offs, and always keep an eye out for optimizing around this sort of math. Now let's check out some common mistakes folks are making with their island. Mistake number 1 is having too many of the same type of building on your island. You need to pay close attention to the number of active buildings allowed, as it varies by building or decoration. The game allows you to build extra copies if you want for cosmetic purposes, but it does not actually give you the related bonuses or prosperity for doing so. If you didn't realize this, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that it's just cheaper to build multiple copies of a building to stack its bonuses, instead of the more expensive option of upgrading one. However, this will lead to wasted essence tied up in things that are not actually adding to your island's value. Mistake number 2 is excessively decorating your island too early on. In the long run, it's a great option to add some personality to your island. However, in the early game, this has 2 risks. 1, it can clutter your island and make you more space constrained for things you need to build. Secondly, unless you already have a high-level town center, it's possible that you can accidentally drain a lot of resources building things like fences, hedges, and ponds that you need for upgrading buildings or advancing in the main Kingshot game. Of course, if you're really having fun this way, then you should absolutely play the game however you want. Just be mindful that excessively decorating too early can have a detrimental impact on your main game progression, or at least make sure you are making a conscious trade-off about it. Mistake number 3 is sort of the opposite of tips 1 and 2, but I've seen players make a very aesthetically pleasing island with decoration that blocks clear passage of the reservoir workers to reach cacti near treasure chests. In this example, the water trench looks cool, but it means that the player's workers will funnel down and to the left and will not reach their treasure chests anytime soon. If their treasures were down in the bottom left though, then this would be a great design to funnel workers there. Alright, so now that we've talked about Oasis Island at length, let's synthesize it into some thoughts about strategically progressing through this feature in the long term. First, your primary goal should be to get your Fountain of Life level up as quickly as possible. Not only does this raise your essence production, which will have compounding effects, but it also stage gates the unlocking of other items, provides buffs to your main game, and gives you valuable one-time rewards. So everything you do should be about creating the shortest path to upgrading this. This means not spending on items that give you more prosperity if you already hit the level you need to upgrade your fountain. The same is true with your reservoir. Whenever you see opportunities to upgrade or build a second one of these, it should be extremely high on your priority list, since it increases passive essence generation and relieves the space constraint faster by clearing cacti. Assuming that's all in order, then you have a strategic choice of what sort of buff buildings you should build and upgrade first. Here I would prioritize growth-oriented ones like research and construction speed improvements over troop buffs like attack and defense for most players. The only exception might be for high spenders who are already accelerating their building and research in the main game with their spending, and are often leading rallies for their alliances. In that case, it might be better to prioritize the troop bonuses for PvP situations. And finally, as new limited items become available for the islands in future events, it might be tempting to waste a lot of event currency to max them out. While it's up to each player to determine how much of a collector they want to be, it's unlikely that many of the troop bonuses that these will provide will make a difference if you're typically a rally joiner, since the troop buffs come from the rally leader only. If you lead rallies, however, this could be a good strategic differentiator that permanently gives you a buff to your troop stats that's not even available anymore in the game to your opponents, so it's worth considering. Let me know in the comments if you have any additional tips or mistakes you've encountered relating to Oasis Island. I hope this guide sets you off on the right path as you build up your island. It's still early days for this feature, so if there are any updates, I'll add a part 2 or at least some tips and tricks videos on it and post it in the description below. In the meantime, I've got plenty of other great videos for you to check out, including other Kingshot Essentials guides in the playlist below. As always, thanks for watching and happy gaming out there.